Hey, everybody. Welcome to EduMatch. Thank you so much for joining us. We are here today. We're going to have a great episode moderated by Karen about teaching with images. And we also have Barb on panel. I'm going to join the panel too. Just really quickly, if you have not yet signed up to be part of the EduMatch awesome table, then go ahead and do so at edumatch.org. And you'll see on the top right-hand side, awesome table of EduMatch. Also today, updated on the EduMatch site was the link to books. So if you go to edumatch.org/books, then you will see that at the bottom where we have our list of books, all of the purchasing information for Dr. Sam Fetchich, EduMagic is up there. So you can pre-order it now in paperback or in Kindle. So this is a great book for any pre-service teachers as well as their instructors. So we're going to start tonight talking about teaching with images. So first, I'm gonna have Barbara introduce herself, please.
Hi, great to be here with the EduMatch family, and for all those joining in and listening on. This is Barb Carter here, and a tech integration specialist currently in the Middle East, with experience both in the United States, the Caribbean, and certainly looking forward to the exchange of ideas and all the collaboration that is in store for this evening.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us. So thank you so much for being here, Barb. And it's your vacation. We're super pumped to have you on while you were on vacation.
Thank you.
Awesomeness. And next, we're going to have our amazing moderator, Karen. If you could please introduce yourself and then get things rolling with the first question.
I will. Thank you. I'm Karen McKinley. I'm a curriculum director and gifted coordinator and an ELA person in Cincinnati, Ohio. And this, I think, is the third EduMatch, activity that I've been able to be honored to be part of. And I really thank Sarah for inviting me to do this. So teaching with images is a real passion of mine. And so before we get started with the first question, I want to make sure that we're all kind of using the same vocabulary. So one of the things that we're used to talking about is Bloom's taxonomy. And Bloom's talks about different levels of thinking. And in his world, critical thinking happens at the higher stages and goes up into the synthesis stage. Bloom tends to focus on what kind of thinking using a variety of words, which kind of translate into what you do with the work after you thought about it. In Ohio, they have decided to move away from Bloom's, and they are now using the work of Webb and his depth of knowledge. And Webb's focus is similar to Bloom's in that it has levels, but it's not geared towards the verbs. It's geared towards the cognitive load. In other words, how hard do you have to think to do or comprehend what it is that's taking place? So he uses 4 different levels, and the acronym is DOK for depth of knowledge. So depth of knowledge 1 is just straight memorization. That's the things that, hey, you can point to and there's one right answer. Depth of knowledge 2 goes up to things that are asking you to compare and contrast, make some sort of a little decision. Depth of knowledge 3, which is where most of our standards are written, that's where the critical thinking happens. It's asking you to kind of interpret something and apply what you've learned. And when you get up to depth of knowledge 4, they're asking you to take what you've learned and move it into something completely different. So in other words, you've learned how the life cycle of something works. Now take that particular animal and apply it to a different animal, something completely different. So we can all agree that whether or not it's Bloom's or Webb's, what they both have in common is that we want our students thinking on a critical level. So purposes of today, what I'd like to do is just, have one definition that we can agree on. So for me, critical thinking is having multiple inputs of information and put together to either make a decision, wonder why, and it's an abstract in nature. So critical thinking, multiple inputs of information put together to either make a decision or to wonder why about something, and it's abstract in nature. So it's not something that has one right answer. It's not something that you can point to on the thing. So I would love to hear what you and Barb, what your definition is of critical thinking.
Hey, Barbara.
Sure. For me, quite honestly, when I think of critical thinking, I'm thinking, is there really a right or wrong answer to the way that you actually portray your response in your thought processes, because your perception of what, when I'm thinking critically, the way I perceive something and the way I'm going to respond to it would be in tune with my perception of that particular aspect. So when I think of critical thinking, I'm not only just thinking of just delving deeper, but delving deeper with knowledge of the individual's perception as well, because perception from different points of view will always give you responses that vary. So when you have varying responses, but the outcome nonetheless is the same, then you have, to me, that is how I see critical thinking being taken to a whole nother level. When you can come up with the same outcome, but look at something differently, even if it means you delve in deeper, or it could actually be even superficial. You delve in superficially on a particular topic, but your perception of it, the way that you look at it, your point of view of that particular topic or concept is one that the individuals or others have not even probably thought about. So that, to me, is critical thinking. Just coming up with a different way of seeing something and responding to it based on the way that you see it.
Excellent. I love that. Sarah, what do you think of when you think of critical thinking?
Well, when I think of critical thinking, then I agree with many of the things that Barb said, with everything that Barb said, actually. I would add to that critical thinking includes pretty much being able to think for yourself, not just taking things at face value. As Barb was saying, diving deeper, and making a decision on your own. So, and I think that that's a skill that's very, very important, especially now in the information age, and how readily available, and sometimes the information out there needs to have a critical eye on it. Sometimes people have information that's not necessarily 100% factual. And so it's important for our students and for ourselves to be able to go through and look at it with a discerning eye and see whether or not we want to believe it.
Those are both fabulous. And what I love about what Barb said was she brought in the whole concept of how your background and your perspective influences how you interpret information. And like it or not, we are what we have grown to be in our experiences. And, we need to be aware of those things, as you're saying, in terms of how we're looking at something, and what impact that may or may have on how we interpret information or images. And I like what you said, too, about making decisions on your own. The whole concept that I mentioned about critical thinking makes you wonder why, or if, or, how, those kinds of things where you're making some sort of a judgment about what it is. And so I love that we're all on the same page with this, that it's where we want our students to go, but it's not something that most of them will go by themselves. And so I think as we get through this process, we'll be able to kind of share with our listeners and viewers about what can we do as educators to kind of help foster, their abilities and their skills with critical thinking. Great. So question 2. So what role do images play in your content? And if you could give an example. Now, an image could be a photograph, it could be a graph, it could be any type of an image. So what images do roles play in what you teach?
Well, when you hear that saying that, a picture really, or an image is worth 1,000 words, whoever came up with that, that's no lie. That is without a doubt exactly what it is. And it goes back to the very first question that you asked, as far as perception is, because I may look at an image and then the questions, the responses, you get so much out of watching an image just from an image itself, not even the words to go with it. Just by having the image, there's so much that can be attained from just the image that you ask yourself, okay, then where do you see it going? For me, images are the focal point for me in capturing a lesson, in initiating a discussion, because you could actually decide, okay, I'm gonna go have a topic in mind, my objectives in mind, but just by putting that image out there, you will realize that, am I delving into what they've already known? by using that image? Am I delving into something that maybe they've gotten on, your learners have gone on a tangent, and they've seen it in a completely different light that you initially intended the lesson to go on, or that you intended the course of the learning to go on? Images for me they're great conversation pieces. And I think that's probably why anyone who delves into art realizes that, when you just lay a photo out there, an image out there, the discussion that can be generated from it alone, you get to learn from the learners, you get to learn from the persons who actually portrayed the image, and you try to figure out where were they going with that in the first place. So for me, an image is a really awesome conversation piece, and it's a great way of getting the learning started. And but great icebreakers. So I see images as a key component in any aspect of learning, no matter what level the learners may be. That is how you really and truly get to know your learners, and you yourself as the individual who initially put that photo up there or that image up there. You get to learn about yourself and realize, okay, yeah, they've taken it on a whole new level, or there's more that can be done with that image as initially intended.
So what do you teach specifically, Barb?
I am more into tech integration. I actually do IT. I actually work with educators in letting them utilize technology in the classroom and how to use that technology to make the curriculum come to life, and making your life as an educator a whole lot easier with the technology. Because most of the times educators see the technology as one more thing to add on into their, under their belt, for those who believe that they're already overwhelmed, but they don't realize that with the actual, you learning more about the technology would actually help to, alleviate those mundane tasks that you already have to do as an educator. And you realize that there's so many things you can actually use the technology with and for to, complement what you're doing in the classroom. I hate to use the word complement. I prefer integrate, because you actually delve into using the technology as a great tool to make, those topics or situations where you have the learners struggling to conceptualize and come up with a way of getting a response from them, and the technology can actually help to do that. So when I think of the images in technology, I think, yeah, it's amazing that one little image can, was the dress blue, or was the dress blue, or was the dress gray?
Wasn't that hysterical? I can't believe how many millions and millions of people that were.
Yes.
That's crazy.
And then you explore way more than just the color of what you see, or just the superficial shapes that you see that made the image. You start going into other parts of the curriculum. You start going into other content areas beyond what was intended.
Oh yeah, there was a whole science and math and all that going on behind that with that. Well, what I that was really cool was using it as an icebreaker. And I know if you're in technology integrationists, you do a lot of professional development. And so, you are what I call a window opener. You show teachers new windows that they can explore with their students. And so having them to get open-minded about that, we all know that change can be a 4-letter word to certain people. And others of it, we just crave it, So I think that's great. And the other thing you mentioned was using it as a discussion starter. Many teachers use it at the beginning of units to throw out an essential question about a unit, or if they're trying to teach a new skill, they'll throw something out and kind of ask kids to kind of, interpret the image, and it leads right into the skills. So you hit on a couple of really key ones that I love. So Sarah, what have you seen done, or what did you do in your classroom?
Yeah, so similar to Barbara, I am my current role, I'm a regional technology coordinator. So I work a lot with educators in terms of integrating technology in the curriculum and in their work life. I also teach adjuncts at a university, so in the ed tech program. So but in my former life, then I taught English language arts. So shout out. Yeah. And definitely piggybacking off of what Barbara was saying, then images, a lot of times, while they will tell us about the subject of the photograph. They also tell us about the lens of the person who's looking at it. So I couldn't agree more. Like the three of us can look at something and see it in three entirely different ways, based on our backgrounds, based on our experiences, based on like our prior knowledge, based on whatever media influences we might have been exposed to. So I think that there is a lot there when it comes to images and pictures.
We're going to have an opportunity to try that out at the very end, because I'm going to put you guys on the spot here at the very end. So we'll see what that is. Yeah. So here's your next question. How does the presence of color, or if it is a graphic image, bolding or underlining, aid in comprehending what the image is about? How does the role of color, the presence of color, bolding or underlining, aid in comprehending what the image is about? What do you think, Sarah?
Oh, we're going to me first.
Yeah, we're
Barbara always says the good stuff. So. Yeah, but I think like that it can be a very helpful tool. Again, kind of like staying on the same along the same wavelength of my last answer. Then also the things that we pull into focus or highlight for our students, that also shows a lot about us. So or it could come straight from the curriculum, but whoever is saying, you know, focus on this particular thing, then that says a lot as well. So but I think that if we do.
Okay, it just froze on me. Can you guys hear me?
And let them
Yes, I can hear you.
And let them know it's something paid attention to.
I can see you, Sarah. Can you talk? Let me see if I can hear you.
Uh-oh, did I cut out for a while?
Yeah, you did.
You did.
I'm sure whatever you said was profound, but so let me throw you back to your ELA days for a second, okay? So let's say one of the harder things for students to understand in ELA is the concept of mood and tone. So think about that in terms of color. How could color help a student understand mood or tone?
Ooh, there's like some show or movie, I forgot what it was, but they filmed a scene with a particular filter on it. You know what? I want to say it was like Blackish, like the next to last episode of Blackish, and they filmed it all in a blue, like kind of a blue filter light, because it was a very depressing episode. Yeah. So I mean, so that to me is you know, you have different colors that are associated with different things. So you have like the more bluish, you know, the more the less vibrant colors that are associated with a, you know, with the tone that's not as cheerful, and then you have like bright shiny colors, and you know, everything is happy, 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 joy, joy, joy. So right. So that would be like one example as a throwback.
Yeah, very good, very good. So Barb, what about you? What about you with using color and things like that?
Well, you actually went right into what I was going to expand on as far as the mood, getting emotions. When I think of color, there's nowhere a tech person would ever, you know, that's like the rule of thought. If you remember the good old days when you did PowerPoint and they always told you, okay, if you expect your readers to capture that emotion, you expect your readers to zone in on a particular key word, and you're going to make sure it's bold, it's underlined. You know that you're targeting emotions. You know that you're trying to trigger some sort of mood or tone here with your audience when you start adding color. The moment you start extracting color, then you know that you're trying to take the tone to a whole different level. You're trying to set a totally different emotion here. You want to, and it's deliberate. If persons actually do it with the right intentions, and you know that when most persons who delve, I'm going to go back into the art. Anytime an artist uses colors a certain way, you know that they're trying to incite or trigger some sort of emotion in you when they use certain colors, certain ways. And to me, when I think of color or the absence of color in an image, then I know that right at the top, as soon as I see it, I know that they're trying to figure out, okay, do they want me to look at this particular image in a calm tone, or should I be calm when I look at that photo? Does it incite some fear or some anger in me? It goes these are the things that I think of when I think of images that has color, or that has color extracted in there, or if there are certain things that have been bolded. I'm gonna just throw this one because I just feel like it. When you have persons tweeting out all caps and bold, then they're not talking to you in a calm tone. They're obviously yelling. These are the things that you think about. It's the same image. Nobody sends an all cap message and expect it to be all monotone and all quiet about it. No, that they're yelling when you can. It's like a rule of thumb. So when you think of color, when you think of reds and greens and blues, you're telling that the persons who were looking out there, I want you to feel excited when you see all those reds and oranges, when you see those blues and the lack of color. I need you to tone it down and try to figure out where I'm going with it. And that's what I think of. I think of emotion. I think of the mood. I think of the tone. I think of what feeling you want to generate in the onlooker when you use that color, or when you extract that color from an image.
Right. And one of the things that I want to take this concept of images and tie it back to is always the way that students comprehend things. So just like you're talking about the moods and the tone and the bolding and the color, when we take those reds and greens and attach words to the different values of the reds and greens, if we say something was crimson as opposed to something that was barn red, or something that was, fiery red, those all have different connotations to them and emote different types of emotions in ourselves when we're reading them. And so one of the really cool ways to take these images and tie it back into, comprehending what's going on there is to give the kids those vocabularies to describe in the minute detail what exactly is that color, and is it a happy color? Is it a sad color? Is it a depressed color? Is it an anxious color? Is it a fearful color? And we can put that in. And so then when they read that in text, that's where the critical thinking comes in. And I always told my students that the idea of reading is to be able to see a movie in your head. And if you can see a movie in your head, you understand what it is you're reading. But if they don't have this ability to take words about colors and have that connection pop into their mind about, oh, that's a scary word, like dismal gray. I mean, okay, that means that something not happy is happening, so I think that's where we can tie the whole color into, comprehension of what we're doing. So I want to take that one step further now. So we've got color, but now if we add in the other things in the image, like the setting, people, clothing, titles, type font, which you talked about with the all caps things, footnotes. What do those kind of things do to an image to help us understand what the author is trying or artist is trying to convey? So Barb, what do you think about that one?
I feel the more elements that you start to add to an image, it now really helps the learner or the persons with the onlookers to be more focused as to what direction the intention was in the first place. The more it's like looking at a mannequin. That's how I think of it. You look at a mannequin and you think, okay, where do I want my shoppers to picture themselves as that mannequin? Are they going on a Hawaiian vacation? Are you going on a cruise in the Alps, or what? Or are you going? Depending on wherever you're at, would have to do with what you start adding on to that mannequin. The more you add to the image, helps the onlookers to more, be a little bit more. It sort of directs the learning it sort of guides the learning in a particular direction, so to speak. Because the more elements that are added on, then you now start to focus on. Okay, look at the persons. When you look at people being added to the photo, you start comparing. Do they all look alike? Is there something that's similar about those persons that have been added to the image that you now have? When you look at wherever the setting is now, you start thinking, okay, then we're not thinking of a beach setting anymore. We're not thinking of a desert setting. So where's the what was the initial intention. So you now start helping the individuals to be more focused as to what responses or where exactly your objectives are based on those elements that have been added. So I would say that those elements that have been added to images help to guide the learning a little bit more. So now you have not responses that are a little bit more off tangent, but they help to be more on point with those elements being added there. So the more you add to it, helps to narrow, so to speak, the direction in which you want them to go. That's how I would perceive it.
I think you make an excellent point about, it's kind of like taking a camera or a microscope, in that when you see all these different pieces, it helps you to kind of pull other pieces of background into the image, into the interpretation, and kind of narrow down the focus as to what the story is that's being told there. So what do you think, Sarah?
Yeah, great points that y'all made. And I would add to that those details can also elicit some kind of emotional reaction from students or from whoever's looking at the image. So if I see, like, for example, I don't know, some kind of image that something in the image connect to for some particular reason, then that can evoke an emotional response out of me, and that might draw me in more. So I don't really think I'm contributing a lot with my answer.
No, I think you do, because here's the thing is that you made a point that neither one of us, Barbara, I mentioned, was that finding something that you can connect to. If you have something in that image that connects to an experience you've had, or something that's happened in the family, or a place that you've read about, it actually engages the student to look further and to look deeper. One of the things that I know history teachers have a real tough time with is getting students to understand the interpersonal relationships that have happened between historical characters and why they react the way they do, because that formal English just blows their mind. They don't understand how formal English happens. But if they see a photo of something that has a family or something that they can connect to, they feel like they can handle that. And I think that happens a lot with our English as second language learners as well. That if they can see something, whether it's a t-shirt logo or, a place that they're playing soccer, or something in the photo that, okay, I know a little bit about something, so I'm going to calm down and pay attention now, and I'm not as stressed with feeling out of my realm of reference. So, no, I think your answer was great. I think it was great. So,
thank you. Oh, I'm sorry. Before you ask the next question, we have Michael, who is in the YouTube live chat. So hi, Michael. And he asks, is there not a worry that you are prompting learners to give the answer you are looking for by pointing at certain aspects of an image? So,
it depends on how you point. You can ask questions open, and that's a great question, Michael, and thank you for joining us. For instance, if you're going to see at the end of this where I'm going to show you an image and I'm going to ask you to tell me about it. And if we're talking about tone and mood, I'm just going to ask, what do you think the tone is? What do you think the mood is? And then I'm going to ask them to tell me questions. And typically speaking, kids will say, they'll tell me what they think, but then when I ask them, well, why? That's where they start to struggle. And that's where I have them start to pull out the elements of the image that made them think that way. But you're right. If you start pointing out the color at the beginning, when we're talking about, in fact, this is great, because this leads right into the next question. How can we teach students to attend to the clues in images? So when you're teaching the skill, yeah, you probably will have to point out certain things. Like you might have to point out, do a little mini lesson on how color, the theory of color, like what Barb was saying earlier about happy colors and bright colors, and what those kind of emotions they mean, and what the darker tone colors and what those mean, to help them kind of have some background. But when you're having the discussion, I think you just pull that back and just ask them, the overall essential question that you have, and then have them, provide the evidence to support that. So how, you guys chime in here, and how would you respond to what Michael said as well? Barb, you there?
Yes, I am. I would actually pull a Jeopardy on that one, in the sense that when I say Jeopardy as in the game, rather than providing the question that would probably direct them to focus on the image, I would actually do it the other way around, where I would actually come up with an answer, and they would have to figure out where in that image did I come up with that question that would have led to that. So I would have them actually look a little further, because they may actually spot something that I may not have even thought that would have led to that question in the first place. So rather than asking the question and telling them, okay, this question would probably lead to, look for, can you find this in the picture? I wouldn't do that. I would probably do it the other way around. I would give the answer and say, okay, give me a question that would, that would lead you to where in the photo that, that you would find that answer, so to speak. So it's not them so much more of them zoning in and focusing on that question in mind, but looking at the image even deeper than I myself would have looked at it. And then you would see where they're going with it. And then whatever answer, whatever responses they would have generated from that, then it would see, oh, maybe I didn't even look at it that way. Most of the times I don't, because they do see it for different, they do see it for different pair of eyes that I don't. Because I'm probably thinking that one track mind, and I'm thinking, okay, I've got these questions, I've got these answers already, already set. And when I ask them, okay, look into the photo, what do you think of the clothing that she's wearing? I'm not going to ask you that. I'm probably going to give you a scenario and you tell me, okay, formulate a question from that, work backwards, so to speak. Don't just look there and use the questions to find the answer. I want you to use the answer and formulate the questions for me. And then you keep looking at that photo and see if you can formulate other questions similar to that one that I just gave you, just by looking at that image, because you could probably generate more than one question just from that one.
My mind is blown. I love that. And now what I'm thinking, it's going a mile a minute where I'm thinking, partner sharing or small groups, and they're each looking at an image and they come back and they share out, and oh yeah, that's wonderful. I love that. So what about you, Sarah? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I love that. I love that strategy. And my initial reaction was to say, like, to leave the questions as open-ended as possible, or having the students generate the questions. I also like what you were saying about like scaffolding, by having them learn about like overall in general, how different elements might be used to create a certain mood or tone. But also, letting them ask the questions.
Yeah, I love both of those things. Okay, so are you ready to be put on the spot?
Oh, my word, yes.
All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you an image, and I'm going to let you look at it just for a few seconds, and then I'm just going to ask each of you to just kind of interpret it and tell me what you see, in terms of what story this image is telling, the tone, the mood, how you might use it, whatever you want to share about it. And then I'll tell you where it came from. Okay? All right. Let's see. All right. See if this is going to work. Sarah and I practiced this before.
Yes, okay. You got this.
Do you see the image?
Not yet. Did the screen pop up asking you which screen you want to share?
Yep. Let's see here. I'll do my entire screen. Okay, I'm screen share. All right, here it comes. Can you see it?
Yep. Yep, we can see that.
Okay.
So you want us to share our interpretations of the photo?
Well, yeah. What story?
When I look at it, I just think of doom and destruction. It's like, I'm not sure if I'm seeing it clearly, but am I seeing horses there? Am I seeing am I seeing a soldier on a horse? If that's the case, but when I look at it with all the smoke around it, the moment I see something like that, I just feel a sense of depression and sadness. It's like somebody lost a war or something.
Okay. All right. Sarah, what about you?
All right, for me, pretty similar thoughts. I'm thinking that the smoke is maybe dust from the hooves. And let me see. So the clothing of the men seems to be like, I would say probably 1900s ish, maybe, but
It looked kind of 1600-ish.
Oh, you think 1600s? I see the first guy.
Colonial time-ish. It looks like the colonial time. The hat. I wasn't even looking at the clothing. I saw like the hat, and it sort of.
I don't see that hat. I see a beanie. That's what I see, but I could be way off.
On the man, yeah. Do you guys see a second person in the photo?
I see someone behind him, but I can't really see too well. The first guy is kind of blocking the second person.
Okay. So
yeah,
Michael's out there on YouTube Live. So Michael, what do you think?
All right, let's see what Michael has to say. He says autumn dusk, going home from work on the farm.
Cool. Could be. When I looked at this image, I thought immediately of what was going on in the world today, and I pictured them as refugees. And in a third world country where horses were still a mode of transportation, it doesn't look like they have much with them. The trees have no leaves on them, so they look dead. So that it looks as what Barb said, that there may have been some sort of a war going on. Do you see that? Can you see the flock of birds in the background?
Yep, see the birds.
There's like dots in the background that are birds. And, it made me think of hawks and things that would be hovering over dead carcasses of things. And again, it's sunset. So or it could be sunrise, depending on where it was, but it looked to me as if they were leaving their homeland. It's fascinating, looking at the different perspectives. We all came up with the same tone and the mood of it, but what was happening in it was a little bit different. So I think that's what's so powerful about images. And this particular image, I want to show you next where I got this. This is a site from Australia that I saw at ISTE 2 years ago. It's called Pobble 365, and they produce a new image every day. And I'm not an expert on this site by any means, but this is the page where it shows you all the different ways that you can use images on here. So they should talk about morning writing warm-ups, which is kind of goes back to what Barb was talking about with icebreakers and discussion starters. Class debates, having different ones. They can use it as part of their guided reading. They have flashcards. You can combine pictures, to kind of have a, compare and contrast type thing. You can have someone get up and act out what they think is happening in that photo. They've got sentences on there. They have lessons that have already been made. You can do all kinds of things. And this is free. And it has a Chrome plugin that goes to it. So I'm going to try and go back here and go back to Pablo, and I'll show you where the images are if I can get back to it here real quick. Let's see. That's not what I wanted to do. Okay, well, that's not what I wanted to do here. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to end my screen sharing here. So I hope that you guys have kind of gotten a passion for using images and what they can do. And it's one of the things that I like to share with new teachers, especially because it can be very overwhelming with new teachers to come up with all the curriculum and all these things. And you can take a single image and do any number of things with you. Like that image that we had there, you could talk about the science of it. Where in the world do you think this image was? How do you know? What are the landforms and things like that with it? There's all kinds of things that you can do. And so I just love that you guys have been part of this. And Michael, it's so great to have met you. Is there any last comments that you want to share, Barb, or thoughts about what you would do with images?
I would definitely say, go wild with them. I mean, most of the times we've got images that are definitely underutilized. And even if it means capturing images from the lenses of the learners themselves, where they're the ones who generate an image, or you you throw out a hypothetical, a question, you do it the other way around, as opposed to the teacher themselves having to be the ones to generate the images to incite discussion. You throw out a question or two if you need to, and see what images they come up with that would lead to them, when they look at a question, what images that they're going to come up with. And even if it means them gathering the images on their own, you sending them off, either you providing them with the technology to go out there and capture images that reflect those questions that you have there, just to see what lens, hypothetically speaking, they were looking through when they came up with these images. And then you now would ask questions that would follow up with them having, why they chose these particular images that, to go with the questions that you had initially. So I say go wild with images. Use them not just as discussion makers, but use them as ways of, probably culminating a lesson, because, I always see it as another way of leading to another lesson when you start seeing images coming in from the learners, and you start to realize, okay, I'm going to take it either from the science perspective, the social studies perspective, the geography aspect of it, and you will see that those images lend themselves to a plethora of other questions or other lessons that can culminate from these images that they themselves will be generating.
Yeah, it is. I mean, you could do a whole year just on images if you wanted to, but yeah, there's just so much you can do. It's limitless. Sarah, what would your takeaway from this?
Absolutely. Just the power of images, just how much information can be transmitted through an image. And I'll also piggyback by sharing something that Michael has shared. He says that he's used images as story starters a lot for news article writing. So I think that that's a great strategy as well. But yeah, images are they are great tools for learning.
Yeah, they are. And what I'd like to do, I did get onto the Pobble site, so I want to show you that real quick before we end. But I want to share one of my favorite lessons that I did as a middle school teacher was with a book called Where the Red Fern Grows. And it really is has a lot of imagery in it, and you really need to understand, because it's set in the hills of Arkansas, and I live in Ohio, and it's set back in like the 1940s and things, and so it's really hard for kids to kind of understand what this main character, this little boy, is going through to buy this dog. So the first couple of chapters really talk about the setting. So what I have the students do is they have to draw the setting, and they have to make it true to life. So I talk to them about, if whatever season it is, if it's winter, are there going to be leaves on the trees? If it's spring, they're going to be flowers? Is there grass on the ground? Is there not grass on the ground? What color is the water? What color is the sky? And they have to come and do that. And that's where I think we really can take, text and have them comprehend it, not only just through writing things out, but sometimes it's better for them to create the images. And so it, again, helps them build that skill of reading like a movie. And when they can read like a movie, not only are they going to like to read a lot more, but they're going to understand it a lot more. So, Michael, thank you so much for tuning in, and Barb and Sarah. I want to show you this, this site here where this is the Pobble 365. And you can see, I got to share my screen again here. Hang on a second. I forgot about that. Screen share. Yes. Okay. Screen share. Okay, here I go. All right, here we go. Can you see that now?
Yes, I can.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is Pobble 365, and every day they have it, and they have it listed by the date down here, so that you can go back and find a certain date. Like the one that I showed you was from last year on October 6th. So I just kept going backwards until I found it. But every day it's a different one. So you can see this is very much of a fantasy image. And then you just click on it and you get the next day, and you can see that it really changes. There's a boat. So if you're studying the Titanic or something with weather, there would be a lot of different things along those lines to do. This guy looks like he's swimming in his underwear, hanging onto a fish that I don't think is probably too wise, but you could talk about Shark Week if you were talking about that. That's one big thing that's happening now. This looks like some sort of an Olympic event underwater, but you can see how they're all very high quality. You know, you could talk about, why are these houses on stilts? What is the reason that they're on stilts? You can see the galaxy in the background. You can have all kinds of different things that you can talk about. So this is just a really, this is just a cool site to be able to take a look at and be able to get images that are allowed to be used. Because that's one of the things that we have trouble with is being able to get images that we can use that are copyright free. So it's a really great place to do that. So
awesome.
I just thank you so much for being part of this today. And I hope you got something that will excite you about using images in your classroom.
Thank you so very much.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Yeah,
You're
thank you
welcome.
both so much. This was amazing. Great conversation about teaching with images. So thank you, Barbara, for being on panel. Thank you, Karen, for being the moderator. Thank you, Michael, for tuning in and joining us. So this was a great episode. It's going to be available as a podcast very, very soon. So a couple announcements before we close out. And I know that some of you might be here for the raffle. So we'll get to that in just a quick second, but wanted to give a huge shout out to our EduMatch authors. Lots of really cool stuff coming up. So August 29th, Dr. Sam Fetchich, EduMagic will be out. October 23rd, then we're going to have the EduMatch Maker book coming out. In November, then Mandy Freilich's second book through EduMatch, The Hierarchy of Divergent Thinking. I'm sorry, I might have just butchered that, but that one is coming out in November. And in December, we have EduSnap 18 coming out. So for those of you who are not familiar with EduSnap 18, then I can tell you right now, Barbara's in EduSnap 17, and she had, yes, Barb, you want to about?
The EduSnap 17 was definitely quite a journey, because it actually took me on a journey when I actually wrote it out. I remember starting, I know it had to do with the shoe fitting, and I was actually going out on a run. I'm thinking, okay, what direction am I going to go on when it's, as far as, you know, putting my 2 cents in that EduSnap 17, and then it actually hit me literally when I was out on a run. And I used that entire run as the metaphor for coming up with my chapter, as far as, you know, educators finding the correct tool and the correct technology and the correct images to incite discussion and to initiate learning and to get learning started and to get that learning, not just starting it, but running with it. So whatever direction that whatever direction you are as an educator or you may be on, you know, finding the right tool, finding the right technology, finding the right images, all that is part of finding the right shoe that fits the learning and moving on and making that learning, you know, meaningful to the learners and yourself as the educator providing that learning.
That's
great
cool.
chapter. yeah, it was a great chapter. So anybody out there who wants to check it out, tomorrow EduSnap 17 as well as EduSnap 16 and the Teacher's Recipe Guide will be available on Kindle for free. So we're having a free day as part of EdCamp EduMatch swag. So check it out on Kindle. You'll see all 3 of the crowdsourced EduMatch titles available for free. And also anyone who is interested in contributing. Last year, we had 2 volumes of EduSnap 17. We had, I want to say, 33 educators and 1 student from 6 countries and 4 different continents. So this year, let's beat that. Let's get 3 volumes going, guys. So if you're interested in signing up, you can just go to books.edumatch.org/EduSnap interest form. So submissions are open from now until August 31st, and that's when it will cut off. So if you have a chapter about what you're doing in education at this particular, this particular school year, then go ahead and put that in there. So awesomeness, awesomeness, awesomeness. Now, time for us to go to the raffle. So for those of you who are part of EdCamp EduMatch yesterday, then you know that we had some grand prize tickets and you had to put in the work for it. So, so just to let you know, there are a couple of people who have won already because they were the only entry. So congratulations to Nancy Swanson for winning the Camtasia license. Whoop, whoop. And congratulations to Stephanie Jacobs for getting the Breakout EDU full platform license. Whoop, whoop, whoop. All right. So we have Yes, we have 3 prizes to raffle off. So the first one is Drop for School. So I'm actually going to go behind the scenes, do my little filtering magic here and see everyone who is part of it. And okay, so I have the names. I'm about to copy and paste them so y'all will see that there is no funny business. Absolutely no funny business. I have to share my screen. Share it, share it, share it. Here we go. Application window. Ta-da. Here we go. Okay, so woo, look at the vortex. All right. So I have now all of the names. These are not the people. All right, here are the people. So let's see who wins the 6-month drop for schools. So the winner is Norma Olson. Congratulations. Congratulations to you. Yes. So super excited for Norma. Yay, you have won a 6-month subscription to Drop for School. Now the next one is for Vocabulary Spelling City. So here we go. Here we go. Here we go. For Vocabulary Spelling City, then we have our let me actually, I should probably unfilter the last one. So let me unfilter that last one. There we go. No more filter on there. There we go. So Vocabulary Spelling City. Okay, so we have our people who have put in for that. All right. So about to put them in there. And Norma, if we call your name again, then unfortunately you have already won. So you have to give it up, but we'll see. Let's see who is going to win. So sharing the application window. Here we go. Random name picker. Submit. Let's see here. Who do we have? All right, Takia. Congratulations, Takia. All right, awesomeness, awesomeness, awesomeness. So we have one more, which is the Classcraft golden ticket. So let me take off the filter. All right, and let's see here, the Classcraft golden ticket. So we only have 2 for this one. Let me see, or 3, I should say. Apologies. So we have 3 for this. So we have Michael, Gretchen, and Stephanie. So we're about to put in the names. No funny business here. Wait, did I? Oh, I pasted it wrong. Hold on. Got this. All right. It's always the stress of being live where we start messing up simple things like copying and pasting. All right.
You're just doing that to make me feel better. That's what it is.
Oh, no. Too funny. Oh, goodness. All right. So here we go. So we have our 3 bloggers who are going to win, who are eligible to win our Classcraft golden tickets. So our winner is Michael. Congratulations, Michael. All right. Check you out.
Is that the same Michael that's
wonderful.
online?
That is the same Michael. So woo. Yay, Michael. Congratulations. All right. So that is a wrap for Tweet and Talk for this week. Next week, we're going to be talking to Flip Classroom. So come back, same bad time, same bad channel, and we will be talking all about flipping. So everyone have a fantastic week.